Hey guys, Bunny here from Ambush Bunny Survival. Before I get started with today's video, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell button so you get notifications when I post anything new. Right now I'm looking into what I call my AFS. That's my amphibian forecasting system. Why? Because, well, you see, I have toads in here. These guys, that's a Gulf Coast. That's a house toad. There's another little, two house toads up there. So, Gibber. That looks like Bofu. That's Caramel up there. And Cryptic. And Scout. These guys come out of their little hidey holes when it's going to rain. And they will all come and line up and stare outside. So that's how I always know it's going to rain. I'm currently in what we call our breezeway. Why is it called a breezeway? Well, it's because it's between our house. That's my back door. And the garage. And all along this space, even though it is enclosed and has concrete floors, it has all these windows we can open up. And there's 3 more behind me, and it literally lets a breeze flow through. It's got a door that we don't use anymore, but that would go to the front yard. That one goes to the garage, and there's one there that goes out to the backyard. But this video is not about these guys. I had once said that I was going to make a video about feeders. And that's why these guys are out right now. Usually when it's going to rain, they're going to come out and they're going to stare out into the yard and watch. That's why I call them my forecasting system. But I've kind of made them come out without it actually raining because they see these up here. And usually when these are up here, it's feeding time. And what I do, we live in a little community out in the middle of nowhere, and it's hard to get feeders sometimes because there is 2 stores in the one city that is about 30 minutes to 40 minutes away, thereabout, depending on traffic. And they service a big area around them, and they don't always have feeders in stock. I went yesterday, they didn't have any crickets whatsoever, so I had to be forced to use mealworms. You can keep them in the fridge. They hibernate in that form, but you get them in a container that's full of like this mulchy bark-like stuff. And when you get to the end of it, it's such a pain to dig them all out. So I started tossing them in a 10-gallon tank here. What's inside this is I've got actually old-fashioned oats across the bottom. And I've started raising them. You just throw sliced potatoes, sliced sweet potatoes, pieces of apple cut up in there, and they'll eat on it. They'll also eat the oatmeal. And I'll also kind of moisten a corner to give them moisture to drink. So they have like a slightly damp, just like a spritz of water on one side and dry side. All this is stacked up so they have space to climb and get away from one another and hide. So what they start out like are these. And these are not store-bought ones. These are actually, I've been running this for a year. I have not bought them in a long time. So these are ones I've raised. They will turn into a cocoon like pupa, which kind of reminds me of Kakuna from Pokemon. They don't move except they can kind of wiggle their little back ends there. Very rigid, very jerky motions. And wherever they end up pupating at, that's where they stay. They turn into little cocoons. And then from there, they turn into beetles. Now, one thing to know about these are not native. They can be very invasive because they easily reproduce and rapidly reproduce. There's some there. There's a itty bitty one right there that could sit on my fingernail. If I was to move this stuff around, there's another beetle. I'm going to be finding... Watch the substrate. That's all worms. The beetles hide under here. They also climb on it. And then the worms and the beetles all hide inside this part. But they're not native. So whenever I go and pull anything that I've fed, before I go and toss it to compost, to keep them out of the environment, I toss it all in here. And I'll show you. This is some of the stuff that I dampened. You can see there's holes burrowed into it. They do that. And I don't want them to be released onto the wild. As you can see, I need to come through here and check it. There's one of the beetles. In you go. So that's to keep these from ending up out there because they don't belong here. And I don't want to introduce an invasive species into our environment. So to keep that from happening, like I said, I toss them in here, I monitor. I let any possible mealworms go through the pupated stage from mealworm pupa to adult and come fish them out. When I'm certain that nothing else is coming out of here, then I'll take this and I'll go compost it. And then we start all over with some fresh feeding. And the reason why, like I said, these guys are out, they want these because they know these cups mean food. So I'm going to work on getting some food for these guys and then go take some in for the leopard geckos, bearded dragons, and then my small tank that's got my anoles and my little frogs in it. I also keep wax worms, which can also be kept in the fridge. I don't raise them. They are treat food, and also whenever my geckos are in their breeding season to help keep their fat stores up so they keep nice chunky tails. Sorry, they're jumping around. I love these guys so much. Here, let's do this. Keep the cats out. This is a bioactive tank, by the way. I don't ever have to clean this. That's Caramel. That little one there, Scout. The dark one's Cryptic. That's Bofu. And my Gulf Coast, which you can look at the top of its head. It's got a ridge closer between its eyes. It's a little bit more distinct than those guys. That one's from Texas. So this tank has a layer of rocks across the bottom. This is old crushed coconut bark. Now this tank has been set up since, man, it's gone on 2 years, 2-3 years. Purple Jew, this stuff grows really, really easy. Just moisten it, damp it down. Lick. They're trying to attack my fingers because they're hungry. It's time to eat. They saw the containers. They know it's food time. And then they have water. They don't drink by their mouths. They drink through their skin. Very easy to take care of. Now, the reason why I also keep these tanks back here instead of bringing them in the house. We run ACs. During the summertime, these guys can get natural sunlight through this window. It's also warm during the summertime, so they're cool with it. During the wintertime, I have red heat lights. We also bring all of our plants back here. So I'm able to keep this at a stable temperature during the summertime and the wintertime, and it makes it raising these easy. If you're in the country like I am and have trouble getting feeders, this might be an option for you. A 10-gallon is not hard to get. You can do a smaller maybe, depending on how many you want to raise. I give a 10 so they have a little bit more space to run away from one another. And like I said, that's just oatmeal. I threw it across. You can get a container, small container for like $2 or $3. It's easy. If you want to jumpstart your farm up, instead of just using the refuse at the bottom of your containers, buy one to feed your reptiles, buy a second specifically to throw in there to start your growing process. Over time now, I haven't had to buy mealworms because I can regularly go in and pick out of this between feeding crickets. When I can find crickets, I buy a few hundred and I keep them in containers and I feed the crickets. And then when I run out, I go back to mealworms. And by the time the crickets have ran out, they've replenished, and then I can start back with these. Thanks for watching, guys. Like I said, if you like this video, like and subscribe, hit that bell button, and keep up with any of the other things I do for the survival techniques. This is more geared towards those who have the reptiles and amphibians, so that way they can make sure they all get fed. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Later.